This is the Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind podcast, where divorce coach Corey Shapiro helps you get creative and not reactive in your divorce. Tune in now to get the support you need to make it through this difficult time. Here's your divorce coach, Corey Shapiro.
Welcome to the Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind podcast. This is Corey Shapiro. Isn't that a handful? Getting divorced without losing your mind. If you're listening to this and maybe you just were informed that you're going through a divorce, is that possible? Well, that's what we're trying to do here on this podcast. Help people get divorced without losing their mind. Trying to help people to be creative and not reactive. So today's podcast is about settlement in the halls. That's those pressure settlements. These aren't the settlements in mediation where everyone's trying to be collaborative. This is where you need someone to put a stick, a little stick. Could be a light stick, a light touch, but it's still that pressure of the court, of an authority figure to resolve things. That's what we're talking about today. All right, we start with our quote to inspire us. We have a interesting divorce news showing an example of a wise judge, and we have a positive perspective. We like to end with a positive perspective. Who am I? Well, when I'm not divorce coaching on this podcast, I'm a divorce attorney in New York City. That's my day job. And I help people get divorced through a variety of methods, and I hope most people can get divorced without court. But sometimes court is needed, and that's what we're talking about today. Today's quote is from Andre Agassi. In the first few, I was a little nervous. I was not executing my shots. I was hoping my opponent was going to lose. And now I'm going out there saying I have a game. I'm going to bring it to the table, and if you can stop it, I will shake your hand and move on. That's from Andre Agassi. I don't know when this comes out. This is during Wimbledon, one of my favorite tennis tournaments all year long. And Andre had the record. If you've been following this, interesting stat, he had the most winners at Wimbledon. And then Christopher Eubanks, out of the blue, never reached this far. I don't think he even got out of the qualies, never got into the main draw of Wimbledon before. He goes all the way to the quarterfinals, and he now has the record for the most winners at Wimbledon. So I guess Andre was on my mind. What is he saying? How is this relating to divorce? Well, I think he's saying two things. He's saying first, okay, in some situations we can play safe and we can get a good result. Maybe that's in more of a collaborative or mediation context. Maybe that's the no court context. But if we're in the court context, we might need to have a game plan. We might need to create what's called a frame, a point of view, so we can persuade the court, the decision maker, of what's important to us. All right, so that's what you want to do. All right, so let's get to the divorce question. If you have a question you like answered for the podcast, go to question.gettingdivorced.org. And you can ask a question right from the browser, and we may answer it on a future episode. Questions from Eleanor. She asked the following. I just finished a multi-year divorce battle. We are on our second judge. The new judge on the first trial day spent the whole day settling. And now we've reached a settlement. But I'm so mad at my husband because we wasted half of our children's college education on lawyers. And why could this case not be settled years ago? Because the court basically suggested what my attorney and I have been suggesting for years. Well, Eleanor, that's a really good question. And it reminds me of a very quick story I have when I've done some mediations and two people are very apart. One party, when I tell them what's important to you in an initial mediation, gives me a very emotional story. And is not ready to discuss anything of substance. And really is just processing the whole divorce and what that means in their life. And then the other spouse is in a different space and is like literally prepared a spreadsheet showing how everything should be divided. And I think from the professional level, when you see two people in your office who are in different experiences, it's much easier than you, Eleanor, much easier when you're removed from it, to be a little bit more empathetic to the person who's processing, who may be zigzagging. I know the impact of that feels like wasting time, but we all have limitations in different areas. And I really feel for you that you went out of budget, but on the bright side, Eleanor, on the bright side, you settled. You didn't have a trial. You moved on. You had a wise judge. And I'm really happy that happened. I'm sad it went over budget, but everyone's in a different place. Everyone's in a different place. That's just how it is. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. All right, so let's move to divorce news. Divorce news is an example this week of this couple, this famous couple, who were battling it out a little bit. Were in court making allegations, and they were wasting time, wasting money, and they had the money, obviously. We're dealing with now with the Kim Basinger and Alec Baldwin divorce. It was a few years ago. They were married for about 9 years. They had a high conflict divorce, but then they finally got a wise judge, maybe like Eleanor. And when they went to court, maybe they were going to get into trial mode. The judge said this. The judge was creative. The judge wasn't being reactive and just trying to work things through efficiently. The judge proposed, come back to court, and each party is going to get an hour. They're going to get an hour to speak in court, an open court, tell the judge whatever is important to you. And you're like thinking, wow, that feels good. You get in your day in court, right? You get in your day in court. It's not a trial. It's not your attorney beating up the other side, but it's your direct line of communication to the decision maker, to the judge. What a wonderful idea. And these attorneys for the parties, they agreed, and the parties had their day in court. They both spoke for an hour, and the court made a decision and moved these people on out of the court system. And that's what most people want. They want a wise judge, and they want to move on. They don't want to be there spending money, even if they have it, or time or energy. All right, so that's a great result. That's a great result. So Eleanor, it sounds like similar. You settled the case. Unfortunately, it took you a little longer than you wanted, spend a little bit more money than you wanted. And my positive perspective is speaking to people who are in this situation where you have someone who is ready to do business, right? And the other party is not. And how can we deal with this? And I think one way to do this is this idea of starting out in mediation so people can flesh out their emotions, what's important to them, not in the context of a litigation, but with people who are trained therapeutically, right? Therapeutically in dealing with these difficult issues. And then that there's a stalemate, having that mediator or someone else turn to a decision maker. And that's what we're going to call an arbitrator or an arbitration. And don't get so scared. I know it's a multi-syllable word. Maybe you've never heard of an arbitration before. And really what it is someone who can make a decision. Just like that judge did in Kim and Alec's case. Just like, not like Eleanor. Eleanor, they pressured the parties into settling. And in Kim and Alec's case, the judge actually made a decision. So here we need a decision. We don't want to waste the time to get pressured with the court, and we don't want to go to court, but we're not agreeing. Let's put a context in this, right? Because I always find it so easy to understand things in context. I don't want to be too abstract. This is, complicated information if you're listening to it for the first time. So let's say, for example, let's talk about summer vacation. We're all in summer now. It's so beautiful, but the problem with summer is school's out and everyone's fighting over vacation time. So let's say you want a month of vacation time. You want July, you'll give your spouse August. Each, parent has a month each of vacation time with the child or with the children. But the other parent thinks that's too long to be away. And maybe only once a week. Now, do you have to go to court and spend all that time and money to come up to a decision? Could there be a different way? What could be a different way? Well, the kind of test I like, I already gave you the answer. You're looking for a decider, an arbitrator. Could be a third party that you pick to make this decision. Could be a child expert. It's just a neutral person you both feel comfortable with, where you're going to feel heard, you're going to feel understood, like a little warm blanket. You're just going to feel like, yeah, this person gets me and they heard me. They might not decide for me, but I felt heard. And if that decision maker, that arbitrator, that child expert can do it properly, you're going to go along in most cases with the decision because you feel like you had a fair shot. And that's really what we want. That's our positive perspective. Let's be like a wise judge, like what Alex and Kim had, and not do necessarily what Eleanor's case did, where they, ran up a budget. They didn't have the money, just normal people. But at the end of the day, the court, thankfully, they had a wise judge who helped these parties move on. Whew. All right. That's our podcast for today. Let's do a little recap. It's always nice to get a recap at the end. When I read books, I like these key takeaways. So what's our quote? It's Wimbledon. Tennis is on my mind. It's from Andre Agassi. It's about sometimes we can't only be safe if we want to be successful in our divorce. And we have to have a game plan, a frame, especially if we're going to court. And our question raised this issue where two people are just in different places. One person's burning through time and money. The other person's already sees the end of the tunnel. And how do you get these two people together? And that was one way to do it. And spend a lot of money to do what they did, to have that court on a trial day. On a trial day, resolve things. And then we talked about divorce news and a wise judge and learning from that wise judge in a positive perspective. We don't necessarily need to go to court to get a decision maker. We can use an arbitrator. All right, so thank you for joining us today. I hope you found this information useful. And we're going to discuss a question about arbitration next week, so we'll get a little bit more in detail. And again, arbitration is just a decider. It's not the judge. It's outside of court, but it could be enforceable. Okay, it could be enforceable. Just like a court's, there's some qualifications, but in most cases, it's enforceable in court. All right. Until our next episode, you can go to our website. That's at gettingdivorced.org. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can find links to my ebook, which is on Amazon. You could check out our YouTube channel. We have the YouTube channel, the video for this podcast, if you rather watch it than listen to it. We also have a conversation YouTube channel. We do conversations occasionally. And you can check out our YouTube channel on that. Okay, so until next time, remember, I'm just your friendly divorce coach. And I know this is hard, but I'm trying to get people to be more creative and not reactive in their divorce.
Thank you for tuning in to the Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind podcast with divorce coach Corey Shapiro. Divorce can be a difficult and overwhelming process, but it doesn't have to be. Corey's book, Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind, is here to help you gain clarity, composure, and a strategic mindset. Get it now as an ebook on Amazon or an audiobook on Audible, and unlock the power of these resources to make more informed decisions and gain better understanding of the process. This podcast offers general information only. It cannot replace legal advice. If you need tailored advice, contact an attorney licensed to practice in your area.